Maybe it would be helpful to know a little bit about me before we start. Originally, I studied philosophy of language and morality. However, I took a course in cognitive neuroscience in graduate school, which helped me in a few ways. I read science books, worked in labs, etc. I could annoy you with the specifics too. My most recent real jobs have involved research, college teaching, and company creation. But I have a guiding principle here. I'm passionate about understanding the world and finding solutions to challenging challenges. Strangely, while I compose this brief piece, I'm doing both at the same time. My favorite philosopher in the past has always been Aristotle. His writings are elegant and straightforward, yet immensely powerful. According to the Aristotelian theory of human behavior, we teach ourselves specific behaviors in order to form moral character. After achieving our objectives, we can partake in this joyful pastime and just enjoy life. I recently started reading about Albert Camus' philosophy as a member of the existentialist book club, since he has a whole different take on happiness. Specifically, that it is unavoidable. Should we take sides now, or is there a way to bring Camus' perspective and Aristotle's 2,500 years ago together? The Greek view of contentment. Camus believes that life is ludicrous in and of itself. We must briefly examine the figure of Sisyphus, who is destined to roll a huge boulder up a mountain to the summit every day for eternity. In order to comprehend why, the rock slides over the other side of the mountain when it reaches the summit due to gravity. It is up to Sisyphus to go collect the rock and push it back up the mountain. To illustrate what he terms the inevitability of happiness, Camus utters the famous words, "We must imagine Sisyphus happy." This idea is more complex than it first appears. After all, Aristotle's analysis reveals that happiness is an activity we can engage in once particular circumstances are met. For a deeper exploration of the idea of eudaimonia, Aristotle's definition of the action of happiness, see my book Bring Back Satire. The idea that happiness is not arbitrary, which dates back to ancient Greece, has produced some interesting but usually conservative results. Epicurus partially modeled his school on Aristotle, suggesting that he reduced pleasure in order to reduce suffering and take charge of one's life. Of course, there have been others, but the Epicurean school is especially relevant to the Aristotelian ideas that Camus challenges. According to Aristotle, achieving happiness is a lifelong goal. Very few of us actually succeed in reaching it, and even for them, luck plays a role. Have you ever noticed that receiving small, unexpected acts of kindness makes you feel happier? Let's say you won a wager at a casino. To put it mildly, the feeling might be ephemeral. For Aristotle, this fleeting moment of pleasure is not happiness. It's also not the same as the delightful feeling you get when you stroll outside and smell a lovely flower. Nor is the sensation of discovering an extra $20 in your jeans pocket on a really excellent day. These are but a handful of the numerous joys that exist. According to Aristotle, enjoyment originates from someone else. These fleeting joys are only diversion if they don't move us closer to our ultimate objective, because happiness is a gradual state. Eudaimonia requires a lot of circumstances to be met, and it appears that a significant portion of people may pass away without ever having experienced the emotion that Aristotle believed to be so fundamental to the human condition. The satisfaction of knowing that everything in our world is perfect and being able to experience that? Maybe we have the wrong idea about happiness, that it's a mechanical attribute that we may strive to achieve. Albert Camus may have been hiding a very powerful and, looking back, evident piece of evidence. Yet he was able to bring it to life with the most basic of statements. Happiness is inevitable. The catch, under Greek law, anyone who has even a passing familiarity with neuroscience will tell you that the brain is an intricate machine. Apart from networks of brains cooperating or competing with one another, the brain is actually the most complicated object we have found to yet. Therefore, we should pardon the ancient philosopher for oversimplifying nature's workings when we examine Aristotle in the context of Camus, and recognize the gaping, glaring flaw in the Aristotelian notion of happiness, whether it has been brought to light by time or by something else, which I will explain in a moment. After all, what specifically should we consider while attempting to assess happiness? The viewpoint of Camus is far more relatable. I'd even venture to say it's flawless. It comes before ideas about human adaptability that are spreading more and more widely. Now that we are out of the Aristotelian framework, it is true that happiness and moral behavior are two different concepts. According to Aristotle, the city's purpose was to enhance its residents, and the citizen's goal was to improve the city. Neither of these claims is incorrect, but at this point, the thesis is undermined by a level of complexity. When Camus applies a straightforward, axiomatic truism to the structure, the whole thing collapses. Camus has perhaps dealt the final blow to the old rationalistic dogma, i.e., do wise things and make good choices and you'll construct yourself and others a better life, by making us envision Sisyphus happy. He just draws our attention to the reality that many of us, whom Aristotle and others might view as wretched, in reality regularly feel happiness. This may appear illogical, yet Aristotle provides a key that clarifies it completely. According to Aristotle, enjoyment was always derived from engaging in a nostalgic pastime. Furthermore, this is in strong contrast to cognitive neuroscience, which is frequently employed to research pain and pleasure and has successfully mapped the brain's dopaminergic tract. However, Camus asserts that Aristotle has overlooked a crucial point. Happiness is a natural aspect of being human. There has probably never been a life without joy. Conceive the worst day in the worst existence you can conceive, then use your imagination to visualize it. Now consider it carefully. It should be quite simple to realize that tomorrow might be better if you use that day as a starting point and live the life you've imagined. Alternatively, if things are worse, then the first day was actually a nice day in contrast. Aristotle observed the lives of wealthy and successful men and awarded happiness to them. This bias, as Camus has so eloquently pointed out, may have had a negative influence on his philosophy. A human body's ability to function depends in part on happiness. Can we help ourselves to be happier with this understanding? A succinct response, perhaps. Science reveals that emotions are entirely subjective. We can endure protracted periods of heartbreaking lows, but we are never truly incapable of being happy. In contrast, it appears to me that happiness is hardwired into the mechanism that permits us to have experiences in the first place after reading Camus. We would only remark that there was a depressive phase, a time of insufficient happiness, that either ended, happy times returned, or didn't end, suicide. Regretfully, Camus may also note that melancholy is an essential aspect of human existence. In an effort to change something about the world to our liking, we push the boulder up the crags. When the objective is reached, there's a brief moment when we can look back on our accomplishment and feel happy. Subsequently, the rock tumbles down the opposite face of the peak and most likely travels a considerable distance. And as we head to get the rock and get back to work, we feel defeated. Maybe this perspective fits the Aristotelian idea more closely than I've thought. After all, Aristotle's primary concern is pushing the rock. He was not a sociologist. Alexander the Great was one of his students, and his clients were the aristocracy of classical Athens. Hence, Aristotle's philosophy is centered on nobility, even though, following his early ordeal of abandonment, he did spend decades studying under Plato. From a sociological perspective, Camus was essentially left without a family. He was called to examine and document many aspects of the world on behalf of those who were interested in the underclass, as well as the elite in their society. Is it feasible that, if Aristotle's basic ideas are put together correctly, humans can get somewhere by striving to live up to the standards we set for ourselves in the name of excellence? Even though it has some sense, Camus would consider it ridiculous. The tasks we would have to complete include work, school, and study. Perhaps in this way there is some alignment between the semi-mechanistic Aristotelian concept of happiness and the absurdity of life for Camus. At least if we do what we love, there's less need to finish the process. Aristotle himself maintained that a true geometer was someone who loved geometry and did it for the love of itself. According to Aristotle, when we lose control over our life, our happiness seeps out. To be happy, we have to work on improving ourselves all the time. According to Camus, an absurd man is one who acknowledges his shortcomings, welcomes his punishment for them, and manages to be happy despite them. It's arguable that each of us has this ridiculous man within us, at least occasionally.